Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Okay, welcome back everyone. Any new folks join us? Looks like we have a lot of regular folks. Anybody new online? Looks like a lot of our regular folks. So it's our custom to go around the room and introduce ourselves. My name is Grisha.
I'm Michael. I'm Alzak.
I'm Matthew.
I'm Bill.
My name is Jeff.
I'm Andrea.
Andy.
Alma.
Bob. Don.
Tony.
Jack.
Bob.
My name is Cass.
I'm Brad.
Welcome everyone in person, and then online we have Jim Stewart, Daniel, Christian, Tom, John, Joe, Rich, Frisco, Samuel, and Gaitis. And I am happy to introduce our teacher for today, Dr. Vimalasara Mason John. She's a senior teacher at the Triratna Buddhist community. She is the award-winning author of 9 books, including her most recently published in 2020, I'm Still Your Negro, and Homage to James Baldwin, and is currently editing an anthology, African Wisdom, Black Liberation, Buddhism, and Beyond, published in 2021. She is also the author of Detox Your Heart, Meditations for Emotional Trauma, and the award-winning book, 8-Step Recovery Using the Buddha's Teachings to Overcome Addiction, with 8-step meetings on several continents. Named as one of the leading African descent voices in the field of mindfulness approaches for addiction, she has co-founded the accredited program Mindfulness-Based Addiction Recovery, MBAR, and she works as a Dharma teacher, public speaker, professional trainer, and mindfulness teacher. You can see more at her website, www.valeriemason-john.com. And so thank you, Vimalasara, for joining us.
Hi. Thank you. That's quite an old bio, I should say. My fault. My most recent book actually is a first aid kit for the mind. So, book number 11. But I just want to say it's just lovely to see all of you in one of my homes, which is San Francisco Buddhist Center. And so it's just lovely to see some of you there, and also some of you. Another home of mine is on Zoom, I should say. Yeah, that's become a home for many people. Yeah, and just to say, actually, just because this is the Gay Buddhist Fellowship, I should say that, I worked very much in the queer world. Actually, some of you might know Teddy Witherington, who used to be the promoter of San Francisco Gay Pride, and Teddy and I worked together in the UK and produced the London Mardi Gras together. So I produced the Arts Festival, etc. So just really wanted to kind of locate myself in the queer world, as to say. So it's always interesting. What am I going to talk about to give a Dharma talk? And two things actually. I would say that firstly, I've just got back. I suppose it feels like just a month ago. I was at Bodh Gaya in the home of the Prince's Enlightenment, where the Prince became awake, and spent 10 days at the Mahabodhi temple, just surrounded by Tibetan chanting and actually leading a practice, the recollection of the Buddha, at the Mahabodhi temple. So I feel very drenched and immersed in the Dharma and in the teachings, because when you go to Bodh Gaya, there are so many pilgrims. You walk along the road and you see so many people being devotional. Of course, you're among people who live there as well, but all the people who live there, whether they are unhoused, living on the streets or housed, they all know that, you know, that you are actually a pilgrim, a Buddhist pilgrim. And part of that, before I went to Bodh Gaya, I was at Dharmadina in Joshua Tree doing a teacher residency. And every day when I walked out of the Zendo, there was this small placard, and you could choose to see it or not see it. And it's so interesting because I've just come from there from co-leading a retreat, and I was saying to some people, like, there's this placard on the door, and people said, what placard? I didn't notice this placard, which is so interesting because the placard was the four reminders, which is this death is certain, time of death uncertain, place of death uncertain, way of death uncertain. How are you going to live your life? And I was seeing this for a month. I was a month there, seeing this every day. Some days I chose not to look at it, but most days I looked at it. And one day I thought, actually, forget about death for a moment. Let me just put faculties. Loss of faculties is certain. Yeah. And that really hit me because, you know, I can actually think, oh, well, you know, death isn't coming. Who knows? I've got this life and I can fool myself. However, I can't fool myself that loss of faculties are certain. I never used to wear glasses. So my eyesight is changing. At some point, I'll be in hearing aids. My hearing is changing. I'm temporarily abled, you know. And so really this question of how are we going to live our life? How am I going to live my life? So I thought I would talk a bit about that theme. How am I going to live our life? And I'm not going to talk for the whole hour. I think it's really great to have questions as well. I love the interactiveness of question and answer. So I hope that's okay here today. So again, how am I going to live my life? So I thought I would read or sing or do from a Tsongkhapa, verses by Tsongkhapa. Actually, these verses were compiled by Viveka Chen, who is attached to the San Francisco Buddhist Center, and it's about this precious birth. This human birth is precious, our opportunity to awaken. The body is impermanent, and time of death is uncertain. The cause and effect of karma shapes the course of our lives. Life has inevitable difficulties. No one can control it all. No one can control it all. No one can control it all. This life we must know as a tiny splash of a raindrop. This life we must know as a tiny splash of a raindrop. A thing of beauty that disappears even as it comes into being, even as it comes into being. Therefore I recall my inspiration and aspiration, and resolve to make use of every day and night to realize it, and resolve to make use of every day and night to realize it. Yeah. This human birth is precious. And why is this human birth precious? Why is it precious? Well, there's a teaching called the Eight Freedoms, and it said that this human birth is precious. It's precious, especially if we are born in a time where the Dharma is accessible to us. Because in certain parts of the world, the Dharma the Buddhist teachings aren't accessible to us. The Dharma isn't accessible to us. And I want to open up that word, the Dharma, because the Dharma really are teachings that point to the truth. So there may be teachings that point to the truth, but they're not configurated in the discipline of Buddhism, because there are other teachings that point to the truth. But it's said that in Buddhism, we have a precious birth if the Buddhist teachings are available to us. And every one of you here in this room, the Buddhist teachings have been made available to you. What are you doing with these teachings? What are you doing with these teachings? This human birth is precious if we have been born in a time when actually war isn't on our doorstep. You know, those of you here, you know, in the United States, I live in Canada, our countries are elsewhere at war, but war isn't on our doorstep. Imagine practicing the Dharma when war is on your doorstep. Imagine. How would you do that? Imagine. How would you meditate with gunshots and rockets and things going off? How would you do that? Imagine. Imagine if your life was turned over as like a tiny splash of a raindrop. I can remember during the pandemic, and people were so frustrated. Many of my Buddhist friends were so frustrated that they couldn't travel and they couldn't do the things that they wanted to do. And I said, well, this is a time for us to practice. So, you know, if we really think we are enlightened and we've really got the Buddhist teachings under our belt, well, wait and see. If war came to our doorstep, just imagine if as queer people we had to go underground. And that's a possibility under your new administration. It's a possibility already, you know, already the rulings that they've made on trans people. Yeah. Already the books that they're removing from libraries, which doesn't just involve trans stories, it involves lesbian and gay, bisexual stories, moving from libraries, from schools, removing books around people of colour, identity and cultures. Just imagine if we had to go underground. Okay. So how are we making the most of this time? Because actually we live in a God realm. The fact that all of us here can live an openly gay or queer life. The fact that we can do that, because there in some countries, as we know, we can't do that. So how are we making the most of our lives? Yeah. It's also said, and I'm going to talk about the wheel of life in a moment, because looking at what mind states that we're in. But it's said these freedoms, we have freedoms if we're not born free from being born in the animal realm, the barbarian realm, the God realm, the views of wrong views. Yeah. So these are the freedoms. And there are also the endowments. Having born, the fact that we are born in a human body, it's said then we have the possibility of waking up to the truth. I don't know how true that is. Maybe animals are enlightened. Who knows? But let's stick to us that all of us here have been born into this human body. Yeah. And all of us here have enough faculties to be able to wake up to the truth. Sometimes I think that we have so many faculties that it gets in the way of our freedom, that it gets in the way of our liberation. The brain, the cognitive faculty just gets in the way of so much, because we become so identified with the brain, so identified with the mind, and we think what the mind is telling us is true. And we've lost touch of the soma. The soma is the body. We've lost touch with the body. We've stopped listening to the body, and what we're listening to is the mind or the brain. And foolishly now we're listening to AI more and more, artificial intelligence. Yeah. We're losing at some point. There will be an AI Buddha. If it's not already being created, there will be. And we'll be listening to an artificial intelligence Buddha. Yeah. So, again, how are we living our lives? How are we making the most of this life? The fact that we've been born in this human body, that we don't have at present, we don't have war on our doorstep. That we have the freedom to live gay lifestyles out in the world. Yeah. We have the freedom, as if there are any people who are female identified, the freedom to be able to be single and not have to be married. Yeah. How are we choosing to live our lives? Yeah. The fact that we have access to the Dharma, the fact that we have access to the Buddhist teachings. How are we living our lives? And it's a question that I ask. You know, those of us who are beyond 40s, in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you know, it becomes more of a question. I know when I was in my 20s and I fortunately came across the Dharma in my 20s, and I thought, oh, I've got plenty of time. And in my 30s, oh, I've got plenty of time. And in my 40s, oh, well, I'm still young. I'm still out clubbing. I've got plenty of time. And now I've just ticked into the 60s. It's like, okay, how much time do I really have? I have absolutely no idea how much time I've had. But what I do know is that I've lived through half of my life, and it's gone quickly. So if it's gone this quickly and I've lived over half of my life, how am I going to live the rest of my life? What mind states do we want to live in? Yeah. And so I want to talk a bit about the Tibetan wheel of life, and just looking at two circles of the Tibetan wheel of life. Those of you who are familiar with the Tibetan wheel of life, you know that there's lots of symbolism in this. And actually there are 4 concentric circles, and I'm going to talk about the inner circle and the one outside. The inner circle, in the innermost hub, we have the cock chasing the snake and the snake chasing the pig. Greed, hatred, and delusion. Greed, hatred, and delusion, which are considered the three poisons that we as humans, the three poisons that we as free humans are afflicted by. I'm going to quote Martin Luther King, because Martin Luther King spoke of the three poisons of being militarism, and we can see militarism is a poison. It's full of hatred. Poverty, and we can see, and racism. That's what he said were the three poisons. And we can see those poisons being played out: militarism, poverty, and racism. And of course, you know, they actually do coincide with greed, hatred, and delusion. Chasing our tail. And all of us will have a tendency to either be more in delusion, or to be in greed, or to be in hatred. And I speak for myself. I'm more of a greed type. I mean, we definitely frequent some of these states, but definitely a greed type, more. You know, I was in the clubs, give me more. Yeah. But I can be deluded. Yeah. I most probably am deluded. Okay. So, I want to talk about the mind states, the different mind states in this wheel of life, because I think it's really important. There is the God realm, okay? And I think the God realm is really, really important, because there'll be some of you here who most probably live in a God realm. It's a world of pleasure. It symbolizes a world of pleasure, of beautiful trees. Every wish is instantly gratified. It's just where things are okay. You know, we don't have to worry about much. You know, we don't have to worry about how we're going to pay the rent, how we're going to pay the fuel bills, how we're going to feed ourselves. And, you know, we either have a really good job, or maybe we live on inheritance, or we've made a lot of money. And we're just in that realm. Yeah. And this is actually, each realm is symbolized by Buddha. So this realm is symbolized by pure white Buddha that appears holding a flute, and playing to the gods and playing the melody of impermanence, but we can't hear this melody of impermanence because we're just in that God realm. Yeah. We're just enjoying. We think it's going to last forever. And I always say during a pandemic, definitely some of us were thrown out of that God realm. Yeah. Because you don't stay in that God realm forever. With certain wars, there would have been people in certain places. I mean, there are many wars all over the world, so I'm not going to focus on any particular war, but there are many wars in the world that we don't hear about. And when those wars just happened overnight, people would have been thrown out of that God realm. When there's an earthquake, in fact, you know, there was an earthquake here, and I lived at the epicenter, and for a moment I thought my house was going to fall down. How would I have been if my house had fallen down? Would I have still been able to practice the Dharma, or would I have gone into hatred and this shouldn't have happened and I've lost everything? You know, some of you perhaps live in fire zones. We know in LA there were huge fires. People lost their homes overnight. How have some of those people responded? Some people who in the God realm, as I know, some people said, well, I've got insurance, that's okay. I'm going to be okay. And other people didn't have insurance and they're not going to be okay. So this God realm, how many of you are in the God realm and know that the God realm does come to an end? It's impermanent. It's not the place where we can wake up to the truth. We can have pleasant mind states and pleasurable mind states. They don't last forever. Yeah. Everything is impermanent. Then there is the world of the Titans. These are the Asuras. It's like warlike beings. They are at war with the gods, fighting for the celestial trees that fulfill all the desires. You know, and so again, we could literally see that as perhaps, you know, countries which have war, you know, even countries, even our countries are at war. There are certain people in this warring world, warring. You know, they might not be fighting for the celestial trees, but they're fighting for fossil fuels. They're fighting for minerals. Yeah. Basically, Canada becoming the 51st state of America, Trump would like our minerals. He would like our water. You know, so again, you know, we might think these teachings are a bit outdated or a bit metaphorical, but you can see that often wars are about minerals. You know, I come from Sierra Leone, the whole blood diamonds, the whole war out there was about getting diamonds out of that country. Yeah. And in this, there is a Buddha that represents here, the Buddha. It's the green Buddha, the Buddha Amoga Siddhi, holding a flaming sword which shakes at the Asuras, at the gods. And hopefully they will see some transcendental wisdom, because it is possible to come out of any of these mind states. Yeah. But it's reminding us that the world of politics is about restlessness. It's about jealousy. And it is all about striving for material wealth, envy of wanting to be others, wanting to dominate others. And this is a mind state that some of us can be in. Yeah. So we have the hungry ghost realm. This is in the image of that is see my hands, the big swollen belly and the tiny mouth, and the big swollen belly. Yeah, the mouth is no bigger than an eye of a needle. There's the desperation of constantly craving, and it's depicted as grasping food, as they grasp for food and grasp for drink, that it turns into feces and liquid fire. Yeah, very, very strong visceral image. And there are many people who are living in this realm, in the world. I work in the addiction world, I work in the trauma world, and there are many people who are living in this world and don't know how to get out of this world, or in that mind state. Yeah. Many people who are using drugs and alcohol in extreme levels, people wanting something else, but they're never able to get what it is. And so they're in that cycle of craving, that cycle of addiction. And the Buddha in this realm is the red Buddha, the Buddha Amitabha, and appears as he showers food that they can eat, but they're not able to be able to eat it because they can't see their neurotic desires. Yeah. And it's not just people with addictions who can be in this hungry ghost realm. It can be people who live a criminal life. Okay, because a criminal life can be very addictive. I know that the conditions the world creates crime, but when people get into that whole world of crime, it is a hungry ghost realm, which tips in also to the hell realm. There's a hell realm, the tormented beings. And some of you may know some of these tormented beings. Yeah. In this realm, it says Yama. If you ever see the wheel of life, you see this person holding this wheel, and that is Yama. The king of death appears surrounded by flames, holding a mirror towards us. And they see everything they have said and done, and they see everything they have done. It represents evil, but in a way, this is a mental state, because I don't even want to use the word evil, because some of us can be so assailed by afflicted mental states, so assailed, don't even know how to get out of these mental states. Yeah. And it can become a place of purgatory. And it says in this realm that there can be the sound of wailing, gnashing teeth. And it's the Buddha of smoke who offers the state of being free of mental suffering and insanity. Yeah. So again, I want to say it's possible to come out of this mental, emotional state, because some of these states can be temporary, can be really temporary. Yeah. Then there's the animal realm. The animal realm, I always smile at this, because again, I want to go back to the pandemic. There was at some point I thought, gosh, I feel like I'm in the animal realm, because all I'm doing is getting up, eating, farting, sleeping, eating, farting, sleeping. It was like that thing. And it was like, wow, this animal realm. And, it's said that some of us can be in the animal realm when we're just not doing much at all. Yeah. And the blue Buddha appears, Akshobhya, holding a book, reminding us of that state of sensual indulgence where it's just like all we want is food, all we want is sex, wanting to satiate the animalistic needs. And there's nothing wrong with that, but is there something more than that? Yeah. And again, it is a realm that we can come out of. We can fluctuate between these realms. It's said that the realm that we can wake up to the truth, the easiest realm, is the human realm. That's what it said. We have this human birth. So it's possible for us to wake up. Yeah. It's possible for us to be able to read the Dharma, hear the Dharma, even if it's through sign language, etc. We have these ways that we can hear and read the Dharma. It's possible for us to meditate. It's possible for us to transform our minds. And the hope is the golden Buddha, the Buddha Shakyamuni, carrying the begging bowl and the staff. Yeah, which is representing the state of human consciousness and reminding us that in this state we have awareness. We have awareness for us to change. we have awareness where we can become more balanced, we can become more calm, and we can commit to a spiritual development. Which realm are we in? Which realm are we in? Are we in the God realm more of the time? Are we in the Titan realm more of the time? Are we in the hungry ghost realm more of the time? The hell realm more of the time? The animal realm or the human realm? And how do we want to live our life? How do we? It's a really important question to ask ourselves. How do we want to live our life? It's really important for you to just take a moment. It's how do you want to live your life? Knowing that death is certain. Knowing that loss of faculties is uncertain. And knowing, actually, we don't know when we're going to die. We don't even know when we'll lose our faculties, because we could have an accident and lose our faculties. We don't know the time or place. So how do we want to live our lives? It's a question. And I'm asking, inviting all of you to reflect on that for a moment. How do you want to live your life? I know for me, reflecting on the teachings, I want to be more disciplined. I want to make the most of the time that I have left. Living the Dharma, being with Sangha, practicing more. And it's not like saying I want to be perfect and I can't do certain stuff, but to just be aware, to be aware of those noble truths. Yeah. The first noble truth, that there is suffering. Not that life is suffering, but because of this body that we're in, which will age and get sick and die, that there is going to be suffering. And that really is okay. Nothing wrong with suffering. To remind people, often when we talk about enlightenment, when we talk about freedom, often we're chasing for enlightenment, but remembering that the Buddha vowed to find an end of suffering. Yeah. So how do we want to live our life? Do we want to be in the God realm chasing enlightenment all the time? Or do we want to be in the human realm and accept that there will be suffering? Or if we don't accept, do we want to be in the hungry ghost realm, trying to avoid the suffering, trying to avoid it, which is that second noble truth, seeing how we can create extra suffering in our life, that craving. Do we? Yeah. Or do we want to be in that Titan realm or that hell realm to get rid of this suffering? Yeah. Or third truth, do we believe that it's possible that there can be an end of suffering? And if we believe that there can be an end of suffering, how do we want to live our life? And of course, the Buddha suggests that we live the Noble Eightfold Path is one of the ways. There are so many different teachings that kind of come from the Noble Eightfold Path. But all we need is the Four Noble Truths to really believe those, to live those. So again, how do you want to live your life? Let's go into conversation now. Let's have a dialogue. I've said some strong stuff. Dharma, I've said some strong things. Any questions or reflections? Because there's a lot of wisdom. Whenever we come together in Sangha, there's always a lot of collective wisdom in the room. So let's hear from some of you.
Hi, my name is Jeff, and
I really, really appreciated your talk because this is a quintessential question. How then do we live? Next month, I've been thinking about this. Next month, I'm going to celebrate being alive for 40 years since I had an HIV diagnosis in 1985. I was symptomatic, and the prognosis was 2.5 years. And so I asked that question, and I went and studied with people who focused on this at retreats, Stephen Levine and Ram Dass and different people. And it changed my life. And I certainly forget that question at times, but it makes priorities become clear that might not be in the haze of consumption and hungry ghost living, in the West. And also, I just wanted to say your comment about being in Bodh Gaya. I was there about 1.5 years ago during a 10-day chanting retreat that was held for Southeast Asia, and it really changed my sense of Buddhism in America, which is that it sometimes gets very dry. It's not devotional, but when I saw all these people walking around, it was like they made it. They were at the Mahabodhi temple, and they were just so devotional, and it was sweet. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Thank you, because thank you for. Is it Jeff? Did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing that, because as we know, often it can be a major medical diagnosis, or something traumatic happens in their life, and we go to the teachings. Yeah. And for some people, they go to the teachings, and then when they're okay, they let go of it. But you didn't let go of it. What were some of the changes that you made when, you had this diagnosis and you came across the Dharma? What were some of the changes you made in your life?
Well, for one thing, I already had a spiritual practice and part of the lineage, and so I began attending much more to that, and going to more retreats and things, and going longer distances and investing in it, and making that a priority. And I also just went right to the bucket list. Like, what are the things I would feel regret about not doing if I made it to the rocking chair on the porch, reflecting back on my life. So,
thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Yeah, somebody else. Question, reflection.
Tom, go ahead, Tom.
Hi. Thank you so much for such a rich talk that I'm sure I will want to go back to. The thing that struck me from the very beginning was when you used a term. We've heard of disabled and differently abled, but you said temporary abled. And I think that's such a fantastic term. Many of us in the room here, as we are of a certain age, we do watch these things start to change and fall away. And I was reminded of that watching my mother decline with Alzheimer's. And, in the news recently about Gene Hackman, very tragic that his wife, 30 years younger than he, died, and he survived for a week, they believe unaware, because he had Alzheimer's, and then he eventually died too from, maybe not being cared for. But these things are temporary, and what also occurs to me is our identity is often tied up in our abilities. And so our identity is itself temporary, especially when we tie it that way to what we can do and how people see us and all these things. So, yeah, you've reminded me of some really great facts of life.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding all of us, yes, this identity is temporary. and just yet how so much that we've concretized it and we held on to it. And that's what can be so painful when we lose some of those faculties, because we don't want to let go of this identity that we once had. You know, it's an illusion. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Somebody else who would like to share.
Thank you for your share. My name is Andrea, and I'm really glad I was able to hear you. And thank you for the question. I'm going to be 75, and I know what's declining, and I am very connected to a 12-step fellowship, and I'm pretty new to Buddhist practice, a couple of years. And how I want to live my life has been answered more in Buddhism, but how to clean up the wreckage of my past was cleaned up in the 12-step way of life, and they are very similar. But I guess what's important to me is that I want to be part of this world. I want to be present. I used to have 6 plans for the future and 7 regrets for the past. And now it's to be present and to notice what else is possible and to actually see what's around me with an open heart. And that takes a big spiritual practice. And it takes people that show me by their example what is possible and who I can be in this world. And it is so rich and enduring. I think I got to Buddhist practice during COVID, and I saw the walking dead who were so alone. And all I needed to do was say, hello, how are you? And it's, I see you. I'm here for you. I was a nurse for 35 years. But this is a whole new level. It's recognizing one another's humanity and helping them to celebrate it. And that I do too.
Thank you. It's what a beautiful gift, isn't it, to be able to get to a place where, as we say in the rooms, a 12-step cleaning up the wreckage, that to get to that place that we can still be alive so that we can actually receive the teachings, you know, that is just such a beautiful gift. And that may be for some of us how we have to live our life to begin with, is to actually clear up the wreckage of the past, because it's not until then that we can actually receive the teachings. A 9th century monk, Dogen, always used to say, to study the Buddha way is to study the self. Yeah. We've got to study the self. And to study the self, we let go of the self. So, there are people who want to Buddhism says, let's go of the self. How do we let go of the self? Well, basically, before you can even entertain letting go of the self, letting go of these identities, we have to come into relationship what these identities are. We have to come into relationship of loving kindness towards ourselves and cultivating that before we can even begin to renounce certain identities, certain behaviors, certain habits. So thank you for that reminder. Thank you. Somebody else who is sitting here thinking, yeah.
I will thank you, as everyone else has, for a fascinating experience listening to you. You talked at some point about planning a life, and I think back to my youth, where I did try to plan a life. And in the beginning, virtually every effort failed. And then things started to happen, and good things started to happen, and I realized they were happening without my input. And I've learned over life that opportunities arise without even trying to make them happen. And if you let your inner self respond to those opportunities, incredible things can happen. And I wound up having a life with such experiences that I discovered something. I wrote down about some of them, and when I read it recently, it brought me to tears. So I don't know if you have to plan a life, but be open to the things that happen in your life, and your instinct will, if you let it, lead you in the right direction.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. There's a saying in our tradition, I think it comes from our teacher Sangharakshita, but it says, all plans are provisional. And I remind myself that when I go to the airport, you know, it's like, yeah. All plans are provisional. Yeah.
You remind me of, there's a book called something about Jewish Buddhism, and it talks about our life has a destination, but your luggage is another matter.
But your luggage is what?
Your luggage is another matter.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
It's just a comment. I really loved your talk, and my name's Bob as well, so you call me Bob too.
Oh, something's happened.
We can still hear you online, Vimalasara. I think GBF has frozen up.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. So, because I can hear you clearly, but the speaker at the back kind of frozen.
Right. I can hear everyone online, but not in the room as well.
Oh, so it's something with somebody in the room. Okay. So they don't know. So what do we do when this happens?
I think just hold tight because they may come back. We're close to the end of the session.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they'll go ahead and 5 minutes left, so they'll go ahead and probably close the speaker and Q&A and start with announcements.
Okay.
Maybe come back, but at the very least, we could talk a little and then do our own dedication of merit, perhaps.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, if you do go back, if you could announce my new book, First Aid Kit for the Mind. I think it is in the library there. Yeah.
Would you say the name again?
First Aid Kit for the Mind.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have a preferred place for people to purchase it? Either direct?
If it's from the publisher, or, you know, there are people who are boycotting certain things. So let's say the publisher for now, Windhorse, and there is the American price for it. So yeah, but people would do, if they've got the name, people would do what they want to do. So
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So can I lead the dedication of merit?
Absolutely. Real quick before we do, can I ask you a question? Had you heard the temporary able somewhere, or was that something you coined yourself? I really like that.
No, I think, yeah, I've heard it. I wouldn't know. I've never coined anything. It's always in the ether. But yeah, it's temporary. It's something that I use, and I think different people have used. I don't use differently able, but I wouldn't say I coined it. Yeah. Popularized it or whatever. Yeah.
Right. We inherit all language anyway, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's very nice.
All right. So should we do the dedication of merit?
Sure.
Please.
May all places be held sacred. May all beings be cherished. May all injustices of oppression and devaluation be righted, remedied, and healed. May all wounds to forests, rivers, deserts, oceans, all wounds to Mother Earth be lovingly restored to bountiful health. May all beings everywhere delight in whale song, bird song, and blue sky. May all beings abide in peace and well-being, awaken and be free. A Ma Ho.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for that.
So
Thank
much.
you. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Okay.
Great to have you back. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Come again. That's great.
I'll try and come in person every now and again. I should let you know when I'm in town next year.
Are you up in Canada right now?
I'm up in Canada right now, but I am actually in San Francisco in April, actually. Yeah, but I'm fully booked. Yeah, because I work legally in the US, and I do a lot of stuff with my Tree Ratner community in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they're back.
We're
Oh,
back.
yeah, they are back.
Oh,
And we're now using my phone as a hotspot, so I don't know. I don't know where we left off. Say thank you so much and start to wind down our session. So, thank you again. And do we have an announcement from the host?
I'm the host. So there are comestibles outside, so please stay for tea and conversation. I will be going around the area with the Donna bowl, Donna being a gift that helps support us being able to inhabit and use this space, as well as having lovely speakers and supporting their work on top of just the general support of the Gay Buddhist Fellowship, whether we do begin with Larkin Street Youth Food Project, but definitely the letters that we also support on a monthly basis. Other than that, pull outside just to let people know. If you're new, we have a sign-up sheet on the credenza. When it comes to the dishes with tea, you can just put them in the sink, and I will clean that up. Yes. And that, 30 people sometimes gather at the door to go out to lunch together, and feel free to continue communion that we celebrate here. So that's it.
Okay. Any other announcements?
yeah, I'd like to do a shout out for my new book, First Aid Kit for the Mind, Breaking the Cycle of Habitual Behaviors. It came out late last year, so do check it out. It's a pocket book, so it's not like, I know if you're like me, you've got a pile of books which you think, I'm going to read someday, and you don't read them. Well, this is a pocket book. You can open up on a page and get a nugget of wisdom. And I think there's a sampler in the center that you can flick through to make you decide if you want to get a copy or not.
Okay, and I just went into the link also, the online link for Donna, and the newsletter and our YouTube channel, and also we have a retreat coming up. So check it out.
April 23rd.
April 23rd to the 27th.
Go to the retreat page on our website.
Yeah, there's a link there. gaybuddhist.org/retreat. All right. Vimalasara, do you have a dedication of merit, or would you like us to use ours?
Let's hear yours, because I just we didn't know if you were coming back, and I did a dedication of merit, so it'd be quite nice for us to hear the other one.
Double dedication. All right, well, we gather in a circle here.
Yeah.
Our example died, so I guess you'll be looking at the Buddha while we gather.
By the power and truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity without too much attachment or too much aversion, believing in the equality of all that lives.
Thank you so much for a great Dharma.
Thanks again, Vimalasara. See you next time.
Yeah, thanks again. Big love from Brazil. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.